Hi everybody, you've caught me in the garage doing a bit of woodwork. And so what I wanted to do today was actually to drill a hole, or a nice big round hole, with this drill bit here. You can see it, I don't know, nice and close up. It's pretty wide, 16 millimeters to be exact. But to do that on its own, it's going to be too hard. So what we're going to do is we're going to get a smaller, little thinner one like this. It's going to drill what's called a pilot hole. It goes and prepares the way for this larger drill bit to go in. So let's give that a go. So let's get this first one up, tightened in. Hopefully this works okay. Got the goggles, safety goggles on, earmuffs on. Here we go. First hole. All right, nice one. That's worked okay all the way through. All right, now that has prepared the way, making it easier for this bigger, larger drill bit, that's it there, to go in. Earmuffs back on. Let's give that a go. Here we go. Woo! All right, success. Well, that's what we're looking at today. Not drilling holes, but the fact that John prepares the way for Jesus. Just like the little small bit prepared the way for the larger, more important bit that does the real hole, so too does John prepare the way for Jesus. John points to Jesus. Well, I'm back from the garage and welcome back to you for term 4. We're still online at the moment, but we're looking forward to being back face-to-face sometime soon. That's our hope. This term, we're going to work through John's record of the life of Jesus, focusing in particular on people Jesus met. We're going to see how Jesus responds to people and how they respond to him. And we're going to keep being confronted by how we have responded to Jesus and how we'll keep responding to him as well. So the first person we're going to focus on is John. Big John B, John the Baptist. We meet John in what's called the prologue. That's just fancy speak for introduction. He appears in verses 6, 7, and 8. I mean, the intro is really all about Jesus, those first 18 verses, and how he's God as a human, and he's always existed, and through him everything was created. He's the source of life, and he shows us that life. That's pretty amazing, pretty majestic, pretty incredible. Makes you take a breath. But here's where John comes in. John is sent from God to testify about the light. That's Jesus. In fact, this is mentioned twice. What does it mean to testify? It means to bear witness or to declare something. The purpose of this bearing witness, like in a courtroom, is that, well, we see in the end of verse 7, so that all might believe through him. That's the purpose. Now, just a bit of an aside for a second, before we start to think about John the Baptist specifically, from verse 19 onward, before we get a fuller picture of him, let's take a think about this idea of believing. It occurs throughout the Gospel of John. You might think of that famous verse in John 3:16. We're going to be looking at that next week. For God so loved the world that he gave his one and only Son, that whoever believes in him will not perish or die, but have life that lasts forever. Belief. And then in John 20:31, as John's writing this account of the life of Jesus, he looks back on what he's written and he says, but these are written, these things, so that you may believe Jesus is the Messiah, the Son of God, and by believing you may have life in his name. This is the big purpose of the book of John. That's the goal, that people might believe that Jesus is the Messiah, the Son of God, and that they might have life because of the life he offers. Anyway, back to John the Baptist, not John the disciple who wrote this account of the life of Jesus. Let's set the scene as we come to verse 19. We have the religious leaders, the priests and the Levites coming out from Jerusalem to check up on this guy, John. In verse 28, we read, all this happened in Bethany across the Jordan River. So not the Bethany in Jerusalem, but the Bethany across from the Jordan River. We know the location. Now, here's the first thing. John points to Jesus. He prepares the way. John points to Jesus.
So we have this confusion around who John is. The religious leaders who come out ask him, are you the Messiah? Are you Elijah? Are you the prophet? John says, no, I'm not the Messiah. I'm not the chosen one, the one God's people have been waiting for to rescue them and to free them. He isn't Elijah and he's not the prophet. Well, John, who are you? Who are you? John responds by quoting the prophet Isaiah in verse 23. I am a voice of one crying out in the wilderness, make straight the way of the Lord. I'm here to prepare the way, to pave the way. I'm not worthy of the one who is going to come after me. No, he's the greatest, but I'm here to prepare things. John is like the trial HSC. Now, stay with me. Some of you have been going through this very recently. Maybe you've finished it already and maybe you're heading up to the HSC. But when you're going into the trial exams that it's not going to be long before you get the full-on final HSC exams. They're coming. It's just a matter of time. The trial points to the fact that the HSC exams are coming. Or like a sign that says T intersection in 3 kilometres. You know that in 3 kilometres, you need to be going slow or have slowed down enough. Otherwise, you're going to end up in the ditch. The sign's not the important thing. It points to the fact that there is actually a T intersection. That's the important thing. And if you don't stop, you could die and have a car crash. John points to Jesus, the important one. And as he does that, he announces 2 things which happen over the next day. Jesus comes to take away sin. That's his first announcement. Jesus comes to take away sin. John sees Jesus coming towards him and says in verse 29, here is the Lamb of God who takes away the sin of the world. This is the one I told you about. After me comes a man who has surpassed me because he existed before me. He describes him as the Lamb of God. Why would John say that? Well, for the Old Testament hero, they would know that the way God's people were declared right with God was through sacrifice. In Isaiah 53, the servant who makes people right with God, the one God punishes for humanity's sin and iniquity, is described as a lamb being led to the slaughter. Jesus is the one who makes possible the forgiveness of everyone, takes away the sin of the world. John is saying here that Jesus is that man. He points to the fact that this is what Jesus is going to do. So the second announcement that John makes is that Jesus is the Son of God. Or some translations have the chosen one of God. The title Son of God that John the Baptist uses of Jesus in verse 34 draws again on that Old Testament background, describing the heir of the throne of David. But there's an even deeper meaning. And there's a deeper meaning. Jesus Christ, the Son of David, is also the true Son of God, surpassing the human forefather even more than David himself would have realized. Jesus is simply better. Jesus is simply greater. See, as we've reflected, or maybe get the chance to check it out in the first 18 verses, Jesus is God in flesh. John, in fact, says that he didn't know, but God sent him to baptize, told him the one who the Spirit descends on, he is the one. That's what happens when John baptizes Jesus. The Spirit comes down, identifying Jesus as the chosen one of God. See, Jesus is the Son of God. Well, it's been great thinking through John and Jesus' interaction and what this first part of John says. John points to Jesus, like an arrow going in the direction of Jesus, like a big sign that says, this is God's Son, the one who can take away sins. Do you know Jesus who takes away sins? Are you thankful for Jesus? Do you point to Jesus and what he's done in your life?